cuando intervengan los japoneses. Gracias.
Mr. Takata, Mr. Igarashi, Luis, vamos a comenzar.
Buenos días a todos,
Good
bienvenidos.
morning, everyone.
Gusto de verlos
It's a
nuevamente.
pleasure to see you
Ya nos
again.
habíamos reunido
We
de
had
manera
met
individual con cada
individually
una
with each
de las
of the
instituciones.
institutions.
Nosotros somos la empresa con
We are the
construcción y medio ambiente.
construction and
Nosotros tenemos una
environment.
consultoría.
We are the
El equipo de
consulting
estudio de
company. We're providing consultancy services with JICA to JICA, which is heading
control de
the
inundaciones
flood
Sur.
plan
Vamos
against
a tener una reunión
Valle
ayer
Sula.
con un grupo
So we're
con los
going to-
stakeholders de las
We're here
cuatro
together with the
instituciones, que son
stakeholders,
las principales
which
que
is
forman parte
the
del
main
desarrollo de este parque.
parts
Están compañeros también del estudio de JICA
of
conectados
this
vía
study.
Google
We
Meet.
will also
Y
have
por
the
eso vamos a
JICA
tratar de, cuando nos toque participar, hablar
So
un
when
poco
it's our
fuerte y
turn
de
to
manera
participate,
pausada
we request you
para
to
que
speak
podamos mantener
loud and
una
paused
comunicación
so we can
con
have a
ellos.
fluent communication with them.
La consultoría nuestra,
Our
ya
consultancy,
lo habíamos mencionado en las reuniones individuales,
one we mentioned
es
in the
la
individual
evaluación
meetings,
ambiental
this is the
estratégica
strategic
o
environmental
EAE,
assessment,
que va
which is the
a colaborar
SEA,
en la
which
elaboración
is
del plan
collaborating
maestro de
with the
control de
elaboration
inundaciones
of
del
the
Valle Sur. ¿Verdad?
master plan
El
against
día de hoy,
floodings.
la agenda que nosotros vamos
Today's
a
agenda.
desarrollar, una parte donde, aunque ya nos conocemos algunas de las partes, pues vamos a
We
presentarnos
know
para
each
que
other, but
como
we're going to
equipo
introduce
sepamos de qué
ourselves. So
institución
know
y
which
cuál es nuestro cargo.
institutions we come from
Vamos
and
a
the
platicar nuevamente
role we
de ese
occupy in that.
concepto de evaluación ambiental estratégica
We're going to talk
que,
about
como
the
habíamos
concept of
platicado con
strategic
ustedes,
environmental
no era muy
assessment.
común, ¿verdad?
Like we spoke
Aquí
with
acá
you,
en el
it's not very
país
common
y de sus objetivos,
We're
y
going
a
to
pesar
address
de
its
que en el
objectives.
artículo 63-65 de
Despite the
CINEIA
article
sí lo menciona, ¿verdad?
of
Pero ya
CINEIA,
en
it
la
does
práctica
mention it, but
no
in the
lo hemos todavía
practice,
desarrollado.
it's not yet
Vamos a,
developed.
con este proyecto, a
So
ponerlo
this
en
project,
práctica
we're going
y
to
a
practice
discutir
it and
entre
discuss
todos,
it
¿verdad? ¿Qué
together
va a
jointly.
incluir esa evaluación
What
ambiental
this
estratégica?
evaluation, strategic evaluation
Vamos
assessment
a
is
ver
going
un
to
poco el
include.
cronograma
We're going to
de la
address the
consultoría,
timeline
cómo
of
vamos
the
hasta ahora,
consultancy,
cuáles son los tiempos, los cuales
the
pues, sabemos que
times
vienen
we
elecciones,
have.
que en noviembre,
We know that there's going to be
diciembre,
elections in
los
November,
feriados,
December, the
entonces está
holidays.
planteado
So
de una manera que
it's
puede manejar
addressed
cierta flexibilidad.
in a way
¿Verdad? De acuerdo también
that it's
a la
also going to be
disponibilidad de
flexible.
tiempo de instituciones.
So there's
¿Cómo
time
sucedió con
available.
este primer taller?
So
¿Verdad que
like it
nos pusimos
happened
de
with
acuerdo,
this,
estábamos considerados para
this
una fecha,
workshop.
pero
workshop.
logramos adaptarnos, ser
We were able
flexibles
to
y poder
adapt
estar
with
aquí
this
el día de hoy.
workshop. We were able to be present.
Nuestras actividades realizadas, lo que hemos
The
venido
activities we've
desarrollando con la consultoría y el inicio de ese levantamiento de línea base, que es la parte fundamental que va a formar parte de esta evaluación ambiental estratégica y que luego será de insumo para el plan maestro desarrollado por el equipo de estudio de China. En esa parte 5 vamos a dar un espacio al señor Takata para que él nos pueda presentar los avances que llevan hasta este momento con el desarrollo de su plan maestro. En este caso, y vamos a manejar esa parte técnica de esta reunión híbrida, pues, los compañeros traductores nos apoyarán con eso y en esos momentos es donde deberíamos estar más atentos con nuestros aparatitos para entender un poco y llevar la línea de la exposición que el señor Takata nos va a desarrollar. Y finalmente, pues vamos a abrir el foro, vamos a platicar con instituciones y vamos a manejar esos planteamientos de los propósitos que queremos todos que se desarrollen esa evaluación ambiental estratégica. Obviamente, aquí cada uno va a poder exponer, manejar la información, sus ideas, todo englobado en ese marco que queremos de evaluación ambiental estratégica.
Of the strategic
En este
development
momento,
assessment. In this moment,
pues vamos a pedir la presentación de cada
presentation
una de las
of each
instituciones.
of the institutions.
Y ahí sí, como mencionaba Paul, nos acercamos un poquito al
Please let's
micrófono
get
y
close
hablamos
to
un
the
poco fuerte.
microphone and
No
speak
sé si
loud.
comenzamos Mario por acá.
Can we
por favor.
begin with you, Mario, please?
Buenos días a todos.
Good morning, everyone. Más fuerte.
Buenos días.
Good morning. The presentation. This is Mario Valladares representing Brian Torres. It was not possible to be present for him today, and we are willing to cooperate. Anything necessary that's necessary and that arises in this workshop. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you. My name is Daniela Hernandez. I'm the coordinator of the Basin Unit within the Study Evaluation Center of Valle de Sula. I'm Laura Barahona. I'm the head of the engineering department of the study center of Valle de Sula. Good morning, everyone. My name is Humberto Calderon. I am the deputy chief of the Center for Studies and Development of Valle de Sula, currently interim head chief. I'm happy to finally be able to be part of this workshop to address the strategic environmental assessment. Good morning. Good morning. My name is Scarlett Enestrosa, technical assistant of Water Resources. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here sharing with all of you. My name is Jacob Espino, head of Water Resources of the Second Ministry of Human Resources and Environment. Good morning. My name is Brenda Flores. Well, almost everybody knows me for Brenda. Good morning. I'm also part of Water Resources. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you. My name is Rolando Ponce. I'm Director of Environmental and Climate Change Management. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you. My name is Pamela Alejandra Maradiaga. I'm a technical in environmental management and climate change. Good morning. My name is Grecia Escalante, and I'm part of climate change and environmental assessment as an environmental specialist. Good morning. My name is Juan Carlos Serrato. I'm part of DICOMA. We're working jointly with the institutions. Good morning. My name is Odalmi Velasquez. I'm also with DICOMA. We are here to support. Good morning, everyone. My name is Delmi Ochoa. I'm an project engineer with DICOMA. We are supporting this project. Good morning, is David Reyes, also supporting DICOMA and the rest of the team. Thank you. My name is David Murillo again. I am the leader of the team, and we are heading the development of this consultancy. I'm very grateful for the time provided us and hoping that today is productive.
Como ustedes pueden ver ahí, son las 4 instituciones, ¿verdad? Que en el acuerdo firmado entre el gobierno de Japón y el gobierno de Honduras formaron parte de ese consejo. Ustedes que están acá, como les mencionaba, son las instituciones del primer nivel de donde vamos a empezar a, como les decía en las reuniones individuales, a ver cómo vamos desarrollando esta consultoría y qué otras instituciones podemos ir involucrando a medida que vayamos avanzando. Ya van a ver más adelante cuál es la metodología de trabajo y ahí ustedes van a poder apreciar que se van a ir incorporando nuevas instituciones y esa decisión, esas invitaciones van a salir de esta reunión, ¿verdad? De la opinión y consenso al que se llegue con ustedes.
According to how you all decide.
Hay una cosa muy importante que nosotros la enfatizamos desde el día 1 y desde las primeras reuniones y la vamos a seguir manejando. Y en este caso es esa definición de qué es para nosotros la evaluación ambiental estratégica, ¿verdad? De manera general, lo habíamos platicado, no es un EIA, ¿verdad? Estamos queriendo manejar esa diferencia entre un EAE, que es la evaluación ambiental estratégica, y un EIA, ¿verdad? Que es el estudio de impacto ambiental. El EIA es ya particularmente para un proyecto, ¿verdad? Es un proyecto, ustedes saben incluso mejor que yo, ¿verdad? Que hay que aplicar un estudio de impacto ambiental. Y en este caso, y relacionado con el plan maestro, lo que nosotros vamos a trabajar es una evaluación ambiental estratégica, es una evaluación más macro. ¿Por qué es importante? Porque el plan maestro, ¿verdad? Que el equipo de estudio de JICA está desarrollando, quiere estar enmarcado tanto en la legislación nacional como en los lineamientos que la guía de JICA proporciona. Entonces, platicando de la legislación nacional, obviamente necesitamos nosotros saber qué dice nuestra legislación, qué es lo que menciona, y poder nosotros enmarcar que este plan maestro esté incluido ahí.
Make sure that the master plan is within that framework, that it complies with that legislation.
¿Cuál es el objetivo
So what is the
general que tenemos nosotros para esta evaluación ambiental estratégica?
Strategic environmental assessment.
Vamos a asegurar que todas las consideraciones ambientales y sociales que el equipo de seguridad tenga para poder proponer los proyectos o las soluciones. Solo vamos a...
Continúa.
Continuamos. Entonces, les decía, todas las consideraciones ambientales y sociales que van a formar parte del plan maestro estén enmarcadas en nuestra legislación. Lo mencionamos acá, el enfoque lo vamos a desarrollar bajo los lineamientos de la Convención Internacional de Mujeres y bajo la normativa vigente. Por eso es importante que estemos claros cuál es el concepto de un EAE, cuál es la legislación que tenemos que seguir y que todas esas consideraciones ambientales y sociales estén plasmadas en ese plan maestro. Eso es lo que el equipo de seguridad quiere decir, que todo lo que ellos propongan, todo lo que ellos incluyan en ese plan maestro, no salga de ese marco, lo incluyan, ¿verdad? Y dicen por toda la consideración ambiental y social. Y así lo vamos a ver más adelante a qué nos referimos. Al igual que tenemos y hacemos una pausa técnica, perdón.
¿Usted podría, ingeniero, usar ese mismo micrófono que están usando ellos para hablar?
Sí.
¿Está bien?
Está el volumen del micrófono bien acá. Claro, de aquí, de la compu, de Teams.
Deme un segundito.
El
Okay.
problema es
¿Me pueden escuchar bien? Are they able to hear me? ¿Me pueden escuchar bien? Mr. Igarachi, Mr.
Se escucha muy suave, dice Luis Machado en San Pedro.
es el
¿Será que cambiamos
micrófono.
micrófono?
Espérenme,
Ok, vamos a cambiar de micrófono.
voy a probar con esta nueva que
No se queda.
Su compu se ocupa
Okay.
probemos con este mío acá.
No hay otro conector acá.
Aquí hay.
Sí, mejor.
A ver.
¿Puede hablar usted con este micrófono, ingeniero? Quiero ver si... No lo escucho. Vamos a ver. ¿Qué tal? ¿Ahora? No. Espera.
Usted se escucha perfecto, dice Luis.
¿Yo me escucho bien? Ok, perfecto. ¿Ahora, ingeniero? ¿Ahora? Oh, qué raro. Me escucho con este. Déjeme probar otro aquí. ¿Qué? Pruebe otra vez. Si se lo pega bien, ingeniero, pégueselo mejor.
Now,
No mucho, pero
now we're hearing better in English than Spanish. We prefer to hear all this conversation in English, please.
okay, very well.
No quieren escuchar a David.
Sí, está bien. Sí, está mejor. Sí,
Ya está resuelto.
sí.
Igual como mencionaba, tenemos objetivo general, también tenemos objetivos. Para el marco legislativo, insistimos que el equipo de estudio quiere permanecer bajo ese marco legislativo. Entonces, acá donde se van a establecer todas estas consideraciones ambientales que forman parte de la evaluación ambiental. Otro de los objetivos, la línea base, es un insumo muy importante también que nosotros vamos a generar al equipo de estudio en su plan maestro.
So they can add it to their master plan. We're going to repeat this. I know I had mentioned it before. This baseline, given what the strategic environmental assessment involves, which is documentation, secondary literature, we're now going to go to the place, the site. The baseline is not going to be recollected. So we're going to be showing you the activities that we've worked on up to now while obtaining information. It's also with the institutions, municipalities, and with other institutions, be able to provide, review the analysis of the documentation. And that way we obtain the baseline. If we continue managing the relationship between a strategic environmental assessment and the impact assessment, when the impact assessment is needed to be executed, that's when the baseline specifically of that project is going to be, that impact assessment is going to be addressed. So that's why it's important, the difference, to understand the difference between these two assessments. Something that's important as well is these workshops. The workshop 1 with these 4 institutions, but also there's also 4 workshops considered to be taking place. This first workshop, workshop 2, we're going to have a progress of an advancement of the baseline, where when you had already decided what other institutions are going to be involved as well, and we could bring some, we had mentioned DNA, SANA, ICF, they're still in charge of the basins. We're going to be discussing about that. You'll decide what other institutions are we going to involve in these workshops. Following workshop 3, that's going to be a progress of the strategic environmental assessment. When we have that first draft, we're going to present
And finally, 4, we will introduce the final product. The findings, all of these contributions that you as key stakeholders, main stakeholders, you will provide us in each workshop the findings that you have also in our visits to other institutions, municipal, governmental, or municipalities will be incorporated to this master plan. And finally, everything will be generated with products. The same, like we are having this first workshop 1, we will render a report product of this workshop. Likewise, for each one of the workshops, we will be generating an advanced report that will be complemented with the final document or strategic environmental assessment sea as such. Next, I was mentioning the methodology we're working on. These initial meetings with the key stakeholders, the preparation of this baseline, environmental and social, the preparation and implementation of the workshops like this one we're holding, and finally, the elaboration of the advanced reports, just like the final document itself. This is the methodology that we are presenting in the initial meetings. We presented you, if you remember, our preliminary report. This is one of the products that we already delivered. And in this manner, we will generate one of the advances in the final document. The analysis of key stakeholders. We have also mentioned this together with you. Here, on the upper part of this pyramid, we can see here, this is where we will start actually our decision making, the study centers, the SIT, the Caserna, and the General Direction of Water Resources that is part of CERNA. These four institutions are the ones with whom you will start to work. Here is where we will start. As I was saying, we will define which other institutions will accompany us, what inputs we should incorporate in our development of the consultancy, and what do you believe will guarantee that the master plan developed by the study team of JICA contemplates the environmental and social conservation. Further down on the pyramid, as you can see here, we will be incorporating little by little the other institutions. As an example, we have in part 2 in HELB, it's a proposal, it's an idea of the institutions that could be in this pyramid. Going down further in the pyramid, we have Copeco ICF, and at the end, in the broader part of the pyramid, once we have decisions, once we have our product, we will incorporate. Here we were saying municipalities, but if you remember, in the previous meetings, we talked about all the many municipalities that are part of the So we have proposed the figure of mancomunidades or community associations. Obviously, some larger municipalities in the country, some of them even have the power to generate environmental permits or licenses. Or so far, anybody has any doubts, this is what we have previously discussed before, but you can interrupt me anytime and we can discuss it here and on the floor. Anyone? Anybody? The timeline for the consultancy. In this case, as we have mentioned beforehand, there is a flexibility in the timeline. The consultancy is to be developed in 12 months. At this moment, or between 1 and 2, the first 2 months of work, September and October. In this case, we have developed the initial report, these initial meetings that we have with each one of you, so much here in Tegucigalpa and in the city of San Pedro Sula. We have started with, by developing the baseline. We already started to carry out some visits to the municipalities, some visits to some sites where we could focus on the study of JICA's team for JICA to develop the master plan. We are at the point of workshop 1. And this is where we are in this timeline, what we have developed so far. And later on, as I mentioned, you saw in the methodology, we would advance with report 1, planning of workshop 2, advanced report 2, and as you can see, during this time, we will be working on the continuation of this baseline. Obviously, We have your business contacts. We can get in touch with you at any time for other meetings or discussions. Likewise, if you consider that there is something important, so we meet, well, we hope that you request it on your side, and we will be totally available to collaborate. Later on, also, once we have the baseline, and then we continue meeting at the different government institutions, local institutions. We will start developing the draft for the strategic environmental assessment. This is objective team. Meanwhile, we elaborate this draft. We will continue in touch with you, and then we will have workshop number 2, 3, 4. And similarly, we will conclude with the final product or the strategic environmental assessment as such, the presentation of this document. We, at this point in time, we have workshop 3 and month 8. They could be ready by April. Mr. Igarashi will be here in the country. We will try. That it coincides with Mr. Igarashi's visit. Likewise, at this point in time, we will do something hybrid. We will handle it in this manner at this time, but there will be some flexibility in developing the consultancy. What activities have we developed so far? As I was saying, additionally to the products we already presented, to the meetings we had individually with the JICA study team, we started visiting the municipalities. Some of them, the biggest ones, that are distributed in the Sula Valley, with the intent to start to collect information from sites or areas where we can focus on the study or information that they have and that can be useful for us in order to incorporate it for the analysis of our basin and any other information. These are some of the municipalities we visited: Puerto Cortés, Cholula, El Progreso, La Lima, Villanueva. During the time we were in San Pedro Sur. Ok, hagamos una cosa. Usted hable un poco más suave, porque parece que escuchan más a usted que a nosotros. El micrófono está algo bajo, no sé cómo. Perfecto. Sí, y no necesita subirse a la torre. Le escucho bien, sí. Y acá me escucho también. Le escucho bien. Perfecto. Sí. Acérquese nada más al micrófono, al podio. Ahí estamos bien. Perfecto. Okay, let's see. Let's try again now. Okay, ready. Welcome. So, as I was saying, these are some of the points that do reference to the municipalities, what the municipal authorities told us, the ones that are in charge of environmental risk aspects, what they told us or mentioned. And this is where we are starting to include these as possible points or areas where JICA's study team can focus on. And then we can come up with conclusions, findings, and then results. This is important to have this feedback that the municipalities have provided. These are some photographs here of the Ulua River. You know, basins of the Ulua rivers are being considered in the work area as we have mentioned so far. As part of this request for information that we have made to municipalities, JICA's study team has collaborated with the formal aspects and, and the seriousness. So JICA study team has generated a document, which is what we present when we go to each institution in order to request information from them. We request this formally through this document. So we have generated this document. Each municipality mentioned what was the proper way so we could request the information from them. In some municipalities, it was directly with the mayor, always with a copy to UMA or to COIN to follow up. Other persons say no, the link is UMA, so it must be addressed to us with a copy to the mayor. And in this manner, at this point in time, and as part of the development of the time consultancy, we have requested information from this municipality. How do we request it? As I said, with an official notification, with formal notification, accompanied by documents that we explain that we as the consultancy firm are part of JICA's study team for developing this environmental strategic assessment, SEA. So with this, as I mentioned, we have provided the proper formality and seriousness to the information request. In order to complete with this part, what's important here is to keep the concept. What is the difference? To know what matters we will develop it. This is important to know it's more technical. It's technical. And looking into the differences between the environmental strategic assessment and difference in the study. In the study, one question if we would comply with the current existing information on the master plan assessment in case that you don't find enough technical information. In regard to the water resources of these basins or the sediments of these basins. So, we have a clear idea in the viability if we don't have all the information. Because this information will determine the real viability of the execution of the project itself. So we need to have all this information. My question is, if we already have the information, or we don't have the information, what will be the ultimate decisions to make decisions whether the execution of the master plan is viable or not, if we don't have all the information we need? That was his question. That question we asked this to JICA study team at the beginning of the consultancy. We are clear, and we discussed this on the table with them when we started to develop the consultancy. And we are clear that in our country, there's not much information. There are some things that are not updated. So once we discussed this, we agreed with our team, and we decided to see what we could update, what information was available, and if not, we will have joint meetings to make this decision in order to guarantee that all inputs or information that came to us would guarantee that the master plan includes all the environmental, social considerations. We have this in consideration. And we see information this we must make a joint decision with the study team. And obviously, we will have to guarantee this compliance. We ask this question initially because we want some information would not be available. And some would have to be updated. And in this case, when Mr. Igarashi or Mr. Takata want to intervene or explain, complement further, please let us know, please. You can interrupt, let us know whenever you want to make a point, Mr. Igarashi and Takata-san. Anybody else has a question? Or is it clear? Everything's clear? Okay. So as I was saying, the difference between EAA and IEA. So the difference is that we want to guarantee that the master plan for flood control Sullivan is falling under these environmental and social considerations and JICA's guidelines. This is what we so far are considering. And so far, in our development consultations and violence, we will open up our floor so as to can introduce the advances of how they are doing with the master plan so we can see also if we have any questions and how we understand at this time we need to keep an eye. So whatever Mr. Takata presents, we will translate here in the room. Takata-san, Igarashi-san, please, if you want to make your comments. And I have to close my microphone here, so you can open yours.
Thank you very much, David-san, regarding the explanation on the SEA and the differences between EIA. But it is a very fast trial in here, Honduras. Some of participants may have some questions, those differences. But SEA is just, discuss the, possible environmental or social effect in the master plan, considering the present situations, so that we can hear the opinion from relevant stakeholders. Those opinions shall be reflected in the master plan. This is most outstanding actions in the SEA. Anyway, please familiar with the terms of SEA, and step by step you will understand what is SEA during the course of the these workshops. Thank you. Takata-san, if we
Thank you very much for the explanation, Mr. Igarashi. Yes, so our discussion is really important for the compiling the master plan. So I really appreciate this opportunity. I really appreciate everyone joining here. So yes, thank you very much. And then let's go to the next step for on the agenda.
Takata-san, it's your participation. If you have us in your program, you have a participation for a specific point. That's what's next in the agenda.
Excuse me, could you say that again?
Yes, the next point in the agenda is your presentation. Your presentation.
Okay, can I start?
Yes, you can start.
Ok, muchas gracias por su explicación. Buenos días a todos. Soy Satoshi Takata, líder del equipo del proyecto HICA. Hoy quería presentarles el concepto del proyecto. Make sense?
Fine, Takata-san. Continue, continue.
Right. You okay, today, let me speak in English. Today, through my presentation, I hope that I could explain the purpose of the project, what we do in the project, how do we use the result of SCS study, and the flooding feature of the Valle de Sula, which is now we are trying to understand and we are proposing the measure based on it. Can you translate?
Yes, Takata-san. I'm translating. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, understand. So first one, I'd like to explain the project outline, feature of the flood control master plan, and I'd like to introduce study flow, and also I'd like to mention about clarification of flooding mechanism and measures. First, project outline. The target area in the river basins. We are focusing on metropolitan area of Sula Valley, Valle de Sula, and that is located at the downstream of the Urua River Basin and Chamaricon River Basin. Urua River Basin has a catchment area of 21,233 square kilometers. It's very wide. And also Chamaricon River Basin has the catchment area of 4,350 square kilometer. That's quite large too. And those total catchment area is almost about 1/3 of the total area of Honduras nation. And the Valle de Sula, Zona Metropolitana de Valle de Sula, that has the catchment, that has the area approximately 2,400 square kilometer. The north and south direction stretch is about 80 kilometer, and the east and west stretch is about 40 kilometers. So it's also quite a large area. The purpose of the project is to, as shown in here, to contribute to flood risk reduction in the metropolitan area of Sula Valley by developing the FCMP, Flood Control Master Plan, for the area and by obtaining approval of the FCMP by the Honduran government. That's a new part. So we set the target as like this. The FCMP proposed by this project will be approved by the Honduran government. So not only we conduct the study, we comply, we make a report, but also we try to make it approved by the Honduran government. Overall goal to achieve through the implementation of the FCMP, the implementation of the FCMP and the pre-disaster investment, that's the important part. Pre-disaster investment for the risk reduction by Honduran government will reduce the flood risk in Urua River and Chamaricon River Basin. So the concept is that we are focusing on pre-disaster investment, not the after disaster rehabilitation. We try to invest the pre-disaster infrastructures. That's a very important part. And we have 3 project outcomes. The first one is flooding phenomena and mechanisms are clarified. The second outcome is, yes, of course, the FCMP is prepared. And also the pre-FS is conducted on the priority project selected in the FCMP. So basically, FCMP is like a long-term plan. Like it may take 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, but before we wait for the completion of FCMP, we focus on the priority area so that we conduct a little bit detailed study in the pre-FS level so that the implementation of such project will be a little bit quicker. So the last outcome is we propose the implementing structure. So that is for the uh, implement fraud risk reduction countermeasure based on the FCMP. Here are the approaches of the FCMP. The FCMP of Silla Valley emphasizes a holistic approach integrating fraud risk management with socio-economic development. And also the second one is the FCMP of Silla Valley is expected to coordinate balance between upstream versus downstream and between right bank versus left bank, as well as various stakeholders who have different objectives to use floodplain. Then project period. This project was started July 2024 and it's going to continue until July 2027. So the project term is about 3 years. Now let's go to the feature of the fraud control master plan. We propose the stepwise development. The long-term policy describes the ultimate state of the basin and the middle and short-term implementation plan that includes specific countermeasures for disaster risk reduction. And then since the most efficient ways to reduce inundation from relatively frequent floods like 10 years return period, 20 years return period, those priority projects will be selected at the first stage of development. Also, the FCMP refers to the present and future land use plans, also development plans, and it contributes to the development of future development plans by introducing the first evaluation results. So, for example, we have the inundation map so that we can distribute it so that based on it, the municipality can select which area is safer, which area is dangerous, so that those information will be useful for the future development plan. And then the third point, the FCMP consider the environmental and social aspect. That's why we have the workshop today. And also compilation and approval of FCMP contributes to the Sendai framework for disaster reduction and the sustainable development goals. And then sustainable development goals, we call SDGs, are 17 global goals adopted by all United Nations member states in year 2015 to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure peace and prosperity for all by 2030. Here is the study flow. So our study consists of 3 stages. Stage 1, basic study. Stage 2, formulation of the CMP. Now we are in this stage. And then after the stage 2, we have stage 3 for pre-feasible study. In stage 1, basic study started on July 2024. And we started with data collection. We conducted preliminary hydrological and hydraulic analysis. And also we conducted preliminary study on adaptation strategies against flood risk considering urban planning, infrastructure development plan, and environmental and social impact, and so on. Now we are in stage 2. We started with the determination of the FCMP conditions. For example, like what is the scale of the fraud we are focusing on, like 100 years return period and so on. And then we conducted the fraud risk analysis. We already conducted some of them, and we proposed a couple of alternatives of the protection areas and the alternatives for the studies. No, alternatives of the combination of structure or non-structure measures. Now we are conducting this. And also study or measures referring to the strategic environmental assessment results, which is shown in the red characters, red letters. This study consists of our workshop and our SCA studies. Mm. Then we go to the conceptual design, construction plan, cost estimate, and implementation schedule, and we go to the financial economic analysis, and then we select the priority project. So when if we do not conduct the SCA study, we just omit this red part. However, we consider the idea of the stakeholders is very important for selection of the measures. So we take this step before we go to the conceptual design, construction plan, and so on. So this is a new step in Honduras. Then after that, we go to the pre-feasible study. We concentrating on the priority areas when we conduct more deeper, more detailed fraud risk analysis. We propose a little deep, more precise design, and then we also conduct the environmental social survey at IEE level for the pre-feasible study, and then we go to the financial economic analysis for making this priority project more feasible. So this red part is really related to the environmental social part, and now we are in this stage, in the middle of the stage 2. Then here, clarification of flooding mechanism and measures. When we think about the structure measures and non-structure measures, we should understand what we are looking at, what risks we are facing at. So we categorized that flood risks, flood mechanisms into 6 parts. The first one, or maybe this one. Okay, we found a couple of areas that is in that can be that we see lots of flooding, but it is intentionally happens. Intentionally, we let the flooding water enter the natural wetland. So, for example, at the river mouth area, we intentionally let the water go out so that the water level gets lower. And also, we have some lakes here. We have vulnerable areas for the inundation here. So whenever water level of the river gets high, the water naturally goes to the lowland area, and we can see some water stored. And secondly, we found some backwater affected areas. For example, we have a road here, and we have a very clogging or very small channel area here. So that whenever we have a lot of water flow on the river, water gets stuck, and then the water gets stored upstream side here. When the water goes through the Chamelecon River, there is a small cross section on the bridge area on the road, so that water just stored at the back at the upstream side. We call it backwater. So this is the general idea of flooding. When the water gets high in the channels, rivers, those water goes out from the channel, and we see some inundations, overflow from mainstream of rivers and channel. And then those water just go through the floodplain area, lowland area, and then water just gets stuck. And also we found some overflow from old irrigation canals in which water enters from river and channels. And finally, Of course, we see some floating from the rivers or channels, but of course we see some rainwater stored at the natural lowland areas. Here we have a very low areas, low elevation areas. When we got heavy rains, those water just get stuck in there, and it takes a long time to see those water just go into the rivers and go to the ocean. So those are the six floating mechanisms we are tackling on now, and then we are trying to find the best alternatives or better alternatives for controlling those floatings. This I'd like to explain about the some example of preliminary ideas of measures. Of course, when we have a flooding, then we should widen or dredge rivers or channels, and especially maybe around La Lima or maybe San Pedro Sula or El Progreso and so on. So we did some widening and dredging of some selected channels. That's one possible measure. And of course, we utilize dams. Like we have El Cajon Dam, yes, and then we also El Tablon Dam. El Tablon Dam we have just completed the feasible study. Actually, Cabey has completed the El Tablon Dam feasible study, and then also uh, Los Lanitos and Icatillo dams. Those are now under feasible study. So those are very good for controlling flood in this area with those such dams. And also, we heard that the El Tornito Dam is now under study. And also, surrounding dike around the prioritized urban area is useful. We are not specifying where is the prioritized urban area, but based on the flood inundation analysis and also the concentration of urban area, we select the prioritized urban area, and maybe we propose surrounding dike. Hmm. And also, in the middle part of the Chamericon River, we have a very wide area, and so that maybe we can make a nice dike along those wide area, so that we can expect some stirring function of floating water there. Hmm. Improvement or widening of the lower stream Chamerican River may lower the water level at the lower stream, so that that will affect to the upstream and the middle stream too. But we have to really careful about this kind of idea, especially for widening or improvement of the lower stream of Chameleon River, and also, of course, with the uh, Udva River too. When we see the lower stream of those rivers, there's a very wide natural wetland, and also uh, in the rural riverside, there are some protected area, so that we really be careful if the construction is very feasible or not. And also, there's a possibility about utilizing natural retarding basins and the plant retarding basin, and also we think about land use regulations. Hmm. Of course, there are a couple of some areas that is Chotepe municipality. Yes, there are a couple of small towns or small concentrated residential areas scattered in the lowland area. In such cases, it's very difficult to protect those each small area. So that in that case, maybe early warning system evacuation, proposing evacuation route is very useful, but that is very, to be honest with you, that is out of scope of our study, and that can be that can be done with the help of other donors like World Bank or USAID and so on. And that's our idea. So basically, we are really focusing on this kind of structure measures, and then land use regulation is like non-structure measures. But this can be the candidate of structure measures for flood control. And now we are trying to find the best combination as alternatives for master plan. And once we have some idea, like for example, 5 alternatives or 6 alternatives, we can present it. I can present in the future. I can present it in the workshop so that we can discuss which maybe alternative three is really affecting the environmental issues. Alternative four is very affecting to the social aspects and so on, so that we can discuss about it. When we can find which alternative is very better. Maybe it's very difficult for finding the best alternatives, but maybe we can find better ideas, better alternatives as a master plan. So these are the concept of the our project. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much, everyone.
We want to thank Mr. Takata. We're going to take a recess of 10-15 minutes. There are some drinks and food, and so you can stretch your legs and we can move on to the next stage part of the workshop. So, Mr. Takata, Mr. Igarashi, and Luis, we're going to be taking a recess, a break of 15 minutes.
Muchas
I
gracias.
understand. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. We'll be back then at
Muchas
45.
gracias.
Thank you. You're very
See you
welcome.
later.
Yes. Hello, Mr. Takata Igarashi,
Hello.
Ingeniero Machado. Yes, we're about to start.
Okay, thank you.
Hello,
Gracias.
You're
I
welcome.
mean,
Hello. Yeah, we're about to start, Mr. Igarashi.
Gracias.
Thank you very much. We're going to continue with the workshop. This
Quiero presentar al ingeniero Humberto Calderón, que es director jefe del Centro de Estudios Históricos del País Sula. Ingeniero Calderón, personalmente con institución, ha estado más en contacto con el equipo de estudio de Yale y en cada uno de los talleres. En cada uno de los talleres vamos a tener ya este espacio abierto, donde cada uno va a expresar, vamos a colaborar en empezar a intercambiar ideas para dar más insumos para el adecuado desarrollo de esta consultoría. Después de que el ingeniero Humberto pues, va
after we have Humberto's participation, the updates, I'd like to ask to speak a little loud and pause so we could give space to the interpreters. So I give the floor to Ingeniero Humberto Calderón. Are you able to hear me? Again, good morning, everyone. The idea is to put everyone in context, provide some context on the reason why we are here today. It's clear that the specific objective is the strategic environmental assessment, but I'd like to provide some history to explain the topic about the master plan. At the beginning of this administration in 2022, I don't know if some of you remember, in year 2021, the commission, Valle de Sula commission, disappeared. So at the beginning of this present administration, it was decided to create within the seat the Center for Studies and Development of the Sula Valley, with the vision of this Center of Studies becomes the technical entity for the protection against floodings in the Sula Valley and the development of the valley. As you can imagine, this is a titanic mission. It's work that never ends. And what we're betting to is to create strategic alliances. So we started giving follow-up to an initiative with the government of Japan, JICA, to implement this project of the master plan. Nevertheless, there's been work with other collaborations, the Central American Bank, the government of the United States, and other consultancies. It's been achievable with the leadership of JICA and that solid support. It's been possible to align all these collaborations and and obtain a common effort to address the problems of the Sula Valley. In the specific case of the master plan, this is a project approved by JICA to create it with the seat. And the Center for Studies and Development is the counterparts of JICA. Seeing the magnitude of the challenge of the Sula Valley, we considered that the only way that to be successful is working in teams with other important stakeholders, like the central government, CERNA, COPECO, INGEMIN, etc., and also the local governments. Given the necessary needs in the Sula Valley, through the years, this alliance has been generated with the local governments to address protection work, not only with local governments, but with the private sector as well, which is another very important stakeholder in the Sula Valley. Actually, yesterday I was interested in the fact that historically we've had a very good relationship with the sugar companies, banana companies, palm companies, and there's been some inputs, small inputs, from companies such as the ones I mentioned, agricultural companies, to repair borders and some infrastructure. Yesterday we were talking with Laura,
about the initiative of one of the maquila companies to invest some amount of money with an alliance with City Hall to repair a border that's damaged, and it is in the area where they have their companies, the maquilas. That participation, we should make the best out of it. Use it to our benefits, not only to protect the valley because of its infrastructure, but also to protect it so it develops more. So it's very important. Sula Valley is very important for the rest of the country, economically speaking. So what have we been betting to in the Center for the Studies? To be able to work with all of these stakeholders, private sector, local governments. And when we talk about the central government, we mean actors like you, stakeholders like you. Today, we are here to address the environmental aspect. That is why it was decided in talks with JICA team that to be able to kick off the strategic alliance, the presence of CERNA was very important with its different units, and also climate change of the seat as the execution company of the master plan, which is because it's the ones that know the topic more on environmental assessment. Now, as the Center for Studies in the Sula Valley, we have to be Superman. We know that Superman's only in movies. We know about we need to have allies and everybody managing their own strengths to be able to address this type of work. What we hope is to be able to work in alliance, aligning the stakeholders, the cooperators, in order to create a team with different institutions of the government in order to progress, not only with a master plan, but with the other projects, the other existing projects with other cooperating institutions. Right now, we are cooperating with other work with financement of the BEAD. Our colleagues, seat colleagues are aware of that. We have other cooperations like Central American Bank. It was completed now, so we just completed a technical assistance with the engineers of the military of the United States, financed by the central bank. We have to follow up on all this. The other thing the seat has bet on is to strengthen the Center for Studies of the Sula Valley structure, human resources. The human resources has been trained better with on the master plan project. We've also considered other trainings which are going to be financed by the BEAD, International Bank of Development. The idea is to establish a center for studies, strong center for studies that can handle the necessary information. Before we were talking that in our country, that's what's needed. We have that weakness, which is when we do this type of studies, is that we start looking for information and we can't find the information, maybe because it's non-existent, maybe because it's spread out. So this is a very important aspect to gather the information, the adequate information to address all these aspects of protection and development, not only social aspects or economic aspects, but for the region of the Sula Valley. Something else that I wanted to address related to this is that we cannot talk about the Sula Valley ignoring the basins of the rivers that cross through the Sula Valley. Because the main axis of this workshop is water. Water generates flooding, but it's also a source of richness. It's a natural resource that's very important. And we have to see it not only solely this aspect to protect this or the other area, but to see it in a more comprehensive way, a more comprehensive management of the water in the basins. When we open to this space, the water basins of Chamelecon and Ulua, we're talking about a fourth part of Honduras. So thinking about an institution resolving problems alone of 1/4 of the country is not true. It's not realistic. It has to be teamwork. And this, I'm only talking about the water resource. But when it comes to water resources, there's many things to address. The basins, forest, agricultural, many aspects, many other things. And the Center for Studies needs the support of the other institutions of the government. This is a first step to organize the assessment, the strategic environmental assessment. Who better than you, all that manage this topic, environmental topic? Of course, this is the first step, and then the other steps follow. Environmental evaluations, assessments. We're going to have topics such as territorial ordinance, which we believe we're going to have to involve the Secretary of Governance, Secretariats, COPECO, and we'll be becoming more inclusive. So the idea is that we all think of how we can start opening that circle. We're going to be including in the next workshop what topics we're going to consider priority for the master plan. I don't want to take so much time because there's many other topics we have to discuss and decide. But my intention is to put you all in context of why the Center for Studies and what we expect from this effort and the support of all of you. So with this, I give you the floor. So we're going to have good results today. Un segundo. Yeah. Thank you, Ingeniero Humberto, that provided all of these valuable information. It has a lot to do with what we're doing with all these institutions, what we expected. It is 11:04 to comply with the schedule. We're going to be here until 12. So we're going to do the open forum when we're going to mention how to facilitate, and we'll leave the microphone open so we can have your opinions, your feedback, observations, like I had like Mr. Humberto had mentioned, define what other institutions are going to participate. Will you consider it important? Will you consider it important? What we will require to develop the consultancy. The idea is that with the time, we have 30 minutes, take 30 minutes for the forum to talk. We'll take 15 minutes for this, and then next. Sí, el micrófono. Está mejor el otro, Paul. El otro me parecía mejor.
Que no cambió, no mejoró nada la idea.
what I was seeing is that this document that they left is of La Gaceta, Article 64 says the proceedings. There's a manual for evaluation, environmental evaluation, where this procedure is. We had commented. So we had talked about it. We have no context on this. There has a project like this that integrates these as environmental assessment is included. It's non-existent. So now that all the institutions are here that are have more responsibility on this, like mentioned, it's integrated in the CINEA guidelines. It is established, but like you say, it's only mentioned in a very, very general way. It's an evaluation, a regional evaluation of macro projects. So it's not, with that, it's not possible to evaluate its weakness.
¿Cuál es el otro, Paul? Un segundo. ¿Cuál es el otro? No, es que son dos, porque están usando diferentes. Solo estamos usando uno. Ok, está bien, solo uno. Si se lo puede pasar al micrófono.
Está bien. Usen los
Sí.
dos. Aquí está el
Este
otro.
es.
Aquí está.
Ah, no, ella está usando que use. Dame un segundo.
Quita el audífono.
Dame un segundo.
Ponga este. Y aquí está el otro aparatito.
Sí, los dos. Que ella hable. Vamos a ver ahorita.
Los dos. Los dos.
Ok, está bien. Que ella escuche. Vamos a usar los dos.
So, the strategic evaluation and assessment is not only for one topic, but for different topics, right? So what we could do is to elaborate or have a final document as a methodology in a national level for different topics, not only for the flooding, but also to address other topics that are interesting that interest us. And so a guide is a final document. That topic is very important, and we also included it in the first interactions we had with the JICA study team. In fact, when we were elaborating the agenda, we thought of giving it a space. But we thought it was too premature. It's there, it's existing. The study team identified its objectives mentioned that we want to comply with the legislation of the country. So we need to first experience. I know it's there, but we don't have the like we have the rest of the times. So the study team also always mentioned that this is a first opportunity to do so. This is when we're going to test it here with stakeholders. The JICA study team is also the core stakeholders, so they guys here, they can work information expand so like I said, this is only the beginning. We're going to be talking with my such a important, valuable input like this. We're going to be doing it in a parallel way. We'll be able to elaborate something bigger. The JICA study teams are things. I will do it. It's going to be an input that is going to be implemented for the first time in the country.
una
sea
temática. Entonces, puede
with
ser
a
un inicio
specific
de
topic.
algo.
It's going to be
Si
the
ya estamos
initiation
acá
of
y vamos viendo
something.
que podemos ampliar
Once we're here and be
podría
able
ser
to see that we can apply it in a parallel way, it could be considered, it could be something valuable, something that we discuss with all of you as institutions. Evidently, we cannot execute it for different reasons. One of those is that this type of plan involves a very big investment. What we can hear from the representatives of JICA, microcuencas, that are necessary to make decisions of what to do, where we can work, mitigation in the area. There's other aspects that involve many other projects. So that's what we considered. Maybe these have not been executed, not because there's no interest, but because it involves many processes. This is the moment to define the path we're going to take, the requirements that arise, what requires by CERNA, the monitoring of the different water basins, different data that's going to be very useful for this. One of the representatives of your consultancy mentioned that there's a lot of information that is still that it's available. So this is going to be the inflection point between JACA and what we need to execute for the project in order to address its weakness, because everything that is necessary, for any information necessary, otherwise make decisions with the existing information, that's something that we have to understand. If there is the information, if CERNA can provide it, so we can execute. I'd like to add something. By experience, we've had previous years or previous decades with projects of this sort in the Sula Valley. We've seen some things that I would think are important to take in account in this evaluation, in this assessment. For example, in the Sula Valley, we have some protected areas. We have the National Park Janekawas. We have some lagoons. Some have the status of protected area, some others don't. But these are natural resources, very important, that we have to preserve. Throughout the years, we've seen a lot of fighting between agricultural conservation. They have not disappeared because there's people that have taken the initiative to protect these. So this is a very important aspect to take into account. The protected areas that are legally protected or not, but that are important, that have an ecological importance in the Sula Valley. Another aspect is the levels of vulnerability of the population. There's different communities, cities. Not all of them have the same levels of vulnerability. When for this type of risk, this is very important to consider. Another topic that's very important that we've seen throughout the years, and thinking that the master plan is going to provide structural measures and non-structural measures for the protection against floodings, is the use of the soil. How it could impact some proposals of the master plan. In the definition or the ordinance of territory for the use of the land, how this can be handled from an impact point of view that these measures can have in the productivity of the valley and the social and economical stability of the population. I'm going to give you an example. Obviously, there's aspects where there's water is retained. It naturally floods. There's areas we've seen in the Sula Valley throughout the years. These areas have been disappearing because people have requested borders so this area doesn't flood. And that has been counterproductive because I've been with this topic for years. If we create more borders in the river with infrastructure, with neighborhoods, we remove the space it needs naturally. And then when we have these natural events, heavy rains, which is normal from a natural point of view, water is going to, since we don't allow it to flow naturally, the water overflows. It's not true that we'll be able to contain it with borders. When the border doesn't work, the disaster is even worse. So this topic, I think, is very important to include it in this study, that the socializing, I don't know if calling it like that, or the analysis of the topic of the levels of vulnerability. Also, the impact on agricultural areas. See maybe the importance of preserving these spaces that are less every time. Some are important, some have been preserved because the population demands that they use it, they grow crops, and they request for borders protection. So how to handle this as a social environmental aspect, which is, I think,
is part of the strategic evaluation, environmental assessment. Maybe there's many more aspects, but I think that he's the relationship between the work and the measures, protection measures, and the use of land, the levels of risk, vulnerability, which is not the same in the whole valley. There's areas that are more, where there's more risk, others where there's less risk. And the topics of areas of importance, ecological importance, should be protected. I think that these three aspects, I think, is important to take in account, consider from the very beginning of this stage. This is what Roberto mentions. It is included already, like you mentioned, the Janekawa's part. The JICA study team knows it is present. We were just talking about some of the municipalities told us there's places where structural measure cannot be done. We can. There's places where we can relocate people. So it's difficult to relocate 60,000 people. So the master plan should contain something else like prevention methods, temporal relocations. All these topics, like I just mentioned, have to be considered, and we are considering them already as part of the strategic environmental assessment. It's very interesting what Ingeniero mentioned, that it's part of the comment we were making now. These are instruments that are being have to be applied in the territory. I was reading the article here that says that it's the Secretariat that's going to implement these strategies. The strategic environmental assessment in regards to this because they would like a very structural design document. I think that the master plan is going to include everything that's the infrastructure that's going to be developed, which is going to guarantee first save lives and reduce the impacts. That there's areas already that were areas prone to floodings. The important thing is to give the next step, define who is going to follow up with what that's at their reach and at the time range to develop something both the short run or the long run. These studies at the end are going to stay in a document as an effort of everyone, but the implementation does correspond to the municipalities, maybe, or the Secretariat of Governance with guidelines, maybe the Environmental Secretariat, Ministry of Environment. All this, defining all this is important. One has to bet to this to be able to implement all these actions. In that sense, like you see, all these workshops, all these documents are going to be presented to you in all these workshops, just like the initial report was presented to you. That's the same thing, that's how it's going to be. It's going to be our responsibility to share that documentation and have the corresponding workshop. We're going to discuss this. On workshop 2, we're going to talk about the discussions we're generating and all the implementation and inputs that you provide to us. So we're going to be implementing that baseline development. That we'll be addressing that in workshop 2. Everything that you told us was in the sensitive areas. We saw the vulnerability areas, those communities that are too big. What's going to be able to be done in those big communities? We talked with the JICA study team and DECA, what everything is referred to. All of this is for them to be incorporated, and that every product result of the talks will include the input and the considerations of each of the organizations included. Good morning, everyone. 3 aspects that I'd like to mention and consider very important is that in the case of ICF, I think that's a state institution that in that first part, because ICF is, if we talk about the basins, these basins, we see it as a comprehensive focus. Number 2, there's reservoirs, water sources, protected areas. All of these aspects are being handled by ICF. So I think that ICF should be the same level as the ones that are united here, gathered here. Something that's very relevant, I think, is that at a country level, we have SINAGER. I think we're not following the ruling of SINAGER. I think it should be internalized a little more or included more at a local government level. I've seen many in the Sula Valley and other regions of the country. But in the Sula Valley, for example, I think that there's mayors that should be incarcerated because they have not really been interested of the people that are living in vulnerable areas. I mean, we have taken them, provided them with supplies. I think that the law would be more strict. The Sinajera law would be more strict. These type of things that the mayor's lack of action in the communities would not be existing. I think that the territorial ordinance is important at a country level and municipality level because we can propose structural work to mitigate risks. But the territorial ordinance, which is working on in the municipalities, it's being demanded to them, has to be applied. If an area is prone to erosion, runoffs, and floodings, should not be possible to be granting permissions to them. Sometimes the law is violated. I've seen many cases. I worked in the ICF, Coastal Region of the Atlantic. I had to see areas. There was areas. So we're not going to have people throwing away their money and selling them territory in lands that's prone to floodings. So we have to see the basin as a comprehensive system, considering that the interventions that are being taken are going to have some incidents. We as CIF are in the infrastructure, but I tell people, what meaning does it make? Maybe we lost a bridge, a border, a road. What meaning does it make to be spending money? We have to start intervening. Deforestation, agricultural migration, monocultivation. That vicious cycle is going to continue. That's going to impede the development of the Sula Valley region. This we consider this is priority because it's going to save lives of millions of people. Taking the idea that the Center for Studies of the Sula Valley, I think important that in the next meetings, besides having their representative here, the agricultural secretariat should be included as well to handle the topic of the agricultural expansion in Sula Valley. The agricultural permissions are being given in places where they shouldn't be given. That has to be addressed as well. Sometimes at SECA we have to the municipalities aware as well. In the next meeting by the municipalities, we should have that information. Maybe no se escucha. No, un segundo. No se escucha. No, Paul, esto no se escucha. Vamos a seguir. Voy a, se estaba pausando, no se escuchaba, se apagaba. Ok, continúe. Así lo voy a dejar, ahí lo voy a dejar. No se escucha ahorita. One second, please. Pausa, por favor. Vamos a tener que usar este otro. Puede. Segundo. Ahora se escucha bien. Perfecto, se escucha ahora. Si puede repetir, por favor. So we should have information in this sense, of baseline information of the use of land that the municipalities grant. I could say residential areas, industrial areas, agricultural areas. Somehow they have an idea, according to development they've had in their area, what grants can be or what permissions can be. So it's not possible not to have an ordinance territorial plan, but we should have that information of the permissions they've provided, because that's going to allow us to have an idea of what's existing in that area. ECF has very interesting information on the use of land. So that's why I consider it's very important to have them here present with us in the next meeting so we can discuss it together. Broadening on this and adding to this information, and as a parenthesis, I expected two things: that there was no participation, and the other is that I was the ones trying to refocus the group. But what I'm happy about is that we're talking specifically of what we want, and I really appreciate that, because in fact, that's the reason for this. And I have to say it now. The first thing is, why is Isaac not here? Because SAC is not here. There's an agreement signed between Japan government and Honduras government through the seat where it was defined and agreed who the four institutions were going to be. That's why you were here as the head, the steering committee. That's why on the second part, we are going to be talking about who are going to be involved. For example, ICF, like you mentioned, has to be involved. SAC has to be involved as well. Now, to provide guidelines, it's difficult to agree when there's too many people involved. That's why we chose you as the stakeholders to begin to do it. But part of what we wanted, which is what we are achieving now, is exactly this. We had ICF on a third level, but you can decide. We can decide together here and agree on that ICF should be present on workshop number 2. And it's useful for us. Why? Because we are going to go to ICF and look for that information that is related to the topic of use of land, territorial ordinance. I showed you the request we made. We have the municipal development plan. They're going to provide that information, and we're going to be able to analyze it for our baseline. Not all of them have a territorial ordinance plan, but some components. And what you are talking about is key, which we already have here included. The second topic, we knew JICA was there. Talking about JICA, the study team is for this master plan. We've had to work with other institutions as it's JICA. When you see the map that JICA developed in 90-something, it's crossed by a lot of problems in lands who allow people to settle there. We also work on an involuntary resettlement plan. It's on the same to where there's people that arrive without a house, and when we go back to them, it's not the same thing with people that are newcomers or people that have been there for 20 years. JICA study team has mapped the area. We know it's raining here, maybe it's not raining there. We know that the rains upstream are going to cause problems downstream. So we know why you're the 4 institutions that are here, because this is where we're going to start making decisions, and I really appreciate it, because what we're going to receive from you now is what we are going to allow us to continue with this. My comment about this, about what Ingeniero Daniel spoke regarding the territorial ordinance, the Center of Studies of Sula Valley had relocated residential areas that would flood, and now there's an industrial area. How could this have happened when it changed from residential to industrial, and it keeps on being, and it keeps on getting flooded? And that happens a lot, not only in the Sula Valley, but also in Honduras. Sometimes, just because of the pressures of the developers of the community itself, the mayor, city halls allow it to happen. I'm going to give you an extreme example because it's very logic what they did in La Lima, for example. In 2002, there was a rectification of the flow of the Chamelecon River because it would always overflow and cause floodings. And there was an area that was abandoned because the river was, the flow changed. At that moment, there was nobody there because it was part of the river. It was informed that that area should not be habited. I remember that with the city hall, we talked about not allowing people to locate in that area because it was going to be a problem area. That was about 24 years ago. Now there's a neighborhood in that same place where that is practically part of the river Chimalipon, of the flow where there's extreme events. It's at Iota. That's the first place is where that flood, because they are allowing neighborhoods to develop. When there's 1, 2, you have to provide them with potable water, electricity, and that makes the problem worse. Aggravates the problem, but I think that it's not that it's being modified with the certification is adjusted and permissions. They just do it because there's maybe a source of pressure. We've seen that in Lima, happens in Venezuela, Choloma, different places. The solution for that would be work closer or in a stronger way, a more influential way with the city hall municipalities. And adding to this, while I was listening to you, something came to my mind, an aspect that I could consider it as an idea to consider it in the master plan for the environmental assessment. Stakeholders could also be the NGOs that are part of the environment, that are addressing environmental aspects. Maybe 20 years ago, around the year 2000, after Hurricane Mitch, thinking of a plan for the handling of basins of Chamelecon River, there was a meeting similar to this one in different parts of the basin, including the Sula Valley. We were in the whole basin. We went to Chamelecon. What we found is a lot of NGOs and community association of communities working on the basin topic. So thinking about this, they could be a very important source of information, these NGOs. So now that we're talking about how to gather information in the Sula Valley, I know there's NGOs that are working on environmental topics. In Nico Quemado, there's an NGO that works in Janecawas Park, in Merendon. They could, I believe, as an idea, they could be source of information. We could consider them in the stage of environmental assessment as actors, as stakeholders in environmental topics of the Sula Valley. There's archaeological sites in the Valley Suva in areas that flood that maybe have not developed for who knows what reasons, but they are present. These are important areas that could be considered. But when it comes to NGOs, they are working on this topic, these aspects already, and they can be investigated to how extensive, how their scope, how much they're involved in this topic. And they are considered now. It's only about where talking about where we're going to locate them, what level. So we're going to have the last participation, and then we can move on to the electing the institutions that you believe could be part of the second workshop. I just wanted to add to what Ingeniero said. A committee of basin committee was created in the Merindon, and this was we've been working with them since last year. And within the committee, there's an alliance, and the private sector is also involved. Water Alliance, it's part of the Water Basin Committee, also comprised of the communities. It's about information. I want to make a difference between the institutions that we visit. It's different from the stakeholders we're going to be involved in. All these NGOs, organizations, communities, neighborhood boards, we're going to decide what level we're going to be locating them for the next workshops. In the most level, we could consider adding them in the fourth level, which is the coordination, the inclusion of the master plan. Thank you again for, because everything that we've talked about here, we consider it. You know, we're going in a good path. Maybe we have 17 minutes left. We have a proposal of ECF. We could place it in a third level as an institution that could be influenced. I would like to our institution as involved. This is a proposal. Your institutions could propose. Raise your hand here to define here in this first workshop. Like I said, we're going to do communication. And to close today's workshop, define four institutions that you consider adequate to be part of the second workshop. I remind you, second workshop is where we'll have the baseline and we'll be discussing with you and be able to progress on the consultancy. Very well. I think that INFIOMIN should be on part A, involved, because they're the ones that provide concession permissions, as well as all of the mining topics is influenced by this master plan. I think they should be involved when it comes to the territorial ordinance. I think that governance should be involved. Like Danny said, ECF as well, because of all the protected areas. They know where the water sources are. That would be my proposal. We have we'd like to incorporate the ECF in conjunction with Inhumane. I don't know if Lanye has more contact with them. I don't know if we could keep them that second level so we could be part of the next level or should we change it. The idea here is that it's an adequate institution
toma decisiones y porque le afecta y está involucrado otros involucrados y como que dice los que van a hacer uso del plan. Entonces, para que ustedes lo mencionen y, perdón, y miraríamos entonces. Y también el otro parámetro es tratar de mantener el grupo,
to try to keep the group
mantener el grupo pequeño para que mantener el grupo pequeño en tamaño para que sea más fácil el manejo.
so it's easier to handle.
Si pueden hablar cerca del micrófono, por favor.
Okay.
Ahora sí. Sí, sí. Gracias.
Yes, I would believe that NA could be placed on third level in the third workshop because I think that in this first stage it'd be more convenient to have institutions that are directly involved in environmental topics. NA is going to be more of a user of the master plan. So I think it's feasible to modify it so NA is on the next group and not on level 2. So we have the proposal of keeping the next institutions that we'll be inviting to the second level. That would be Inhumane and ICF. Somebody considers another institution to be invited to the workshop number 2? On the first, we know to make decisions. Second workshop is the technical aspects. Also the environmental area, but they're very involved. That's why ECFA handles the basins and the areas. So we think that they are more involved and they should be brought in for decisions. So that's why we move into the third level because they're not as involved, more as users of this master plan. So maybe we can move into another level and maybe put ECFA on the second level. So we can have a workshop of 6 institutions instead of 4 only. And so I believe that the governance secretariat, because of the territorial ordinance planning goes along with that, added to everything that all the inputs from ICF, Serna, and the ones involved. It's an important part. I would consider the strategic planning secretariat. Why? Because these are guidelines that the governments will define through their policies. That's why I think it could be important. What I tell you is there's not that the operational plannings for every institution, strategic plans of every institution are included as well, and also the government plans, strategic plans. One of these government plans are the master plans, the strategic environmental assistance. That could be also just a question, just to be clear on this. The Secretary of Governance is involved, or once the document is ready, should we socialize the document to them and they make it their own? Would that be better? Is that how it works? Or would they give us the environmental guidelines? Or ESEF would give us those environmental guidelines. And once we have the environmental considerations and the document is generated, we invite the Secretary of Ministry of Strategic Planification. So that's when they decide to make that document theirs and include it in their strategic. Any of them, as they would be interested in adapting that document once it's ready and use it and apply it where required. That's what I was asking for about the stakeholders.
Ahí es técnica todavía. Sí, ya con los insumos de la
Once
línea
we
base.
have the
Ahí
inputs on the
vamos a
baseline,
hablar de tema de
we'll be
vulnerabilidad,
talking about
de temas
vulnerability
sociales,
aspects, social
ambientales.
aspects.
Sigue siendo técnico todavía.
It'd still be technical on the second level. We also have to see which institutions, there's units, environmental units within those institutions that we could consider. Otherwise, we could just focus on the environmental area. I don't know, the academy universities, for example. The academy is important because of the information they can provide to us. They might not take decisions, but they can provide information to us. If we don't have anything else and no other comments, let's just regarding Seguro, maybe we could include them on the third workshop, Plant Group B, because of the ordinance and the incidents they have or influence they have in local governments, because they do give some guidelines, directions in management, risk management. Maybe we could consider them for next workshop. Group B. So we're clear on the methodology. We are choosing the next for workshop 2. On workshop number 2, the dynamics is going to be the same. At the end of workshop 2, we're going to have discussion of the inputs. And we want to be choosing who's going to be on part level 3 on part B in the next workshop. So, if you agree, let's raise our hands that workshop number 2, the 2 institutions that would be added to the 4 institutions present now would be ICF and Inhiomi. Am I correct? Do you agree? Raise your hand. Raise your hand for the picture, just to make sure that we all agree on that. Thank you for that. To complete, to close, I really appreciate your participation, your time. We are going to be in communication. I have all your contacts. You all have my contact, our contacts. We're going to keep on meeting between the workshops. And as a summary, we are all clear on what SEA means, difference from SIA, the inputs you provided about the protected areas, vulnerability areas, the fact that we don't want that this document ends up just like paper, but we're going to make sure that this becomes a good guide, good guidelines to protect the sewer valley, considering that's such a productive area that so many disasters happen. For example, knowing where to construct the borders to avoid problems, define that master plan. We've defined the institutions that are going to be with us in the next workshop. Let's see the law, territorial ordinance, the use of land. We're all interested in that, in achieving that. And we're all focused and committed with the baseline study. Thank you, Mr. Takata and Mr. Igarashi. I know that it's going to be midnight very soon. We appreciate your time, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for your time. Thank you very much. Mr.
Mr. Igarashi and Mr. Igarashi, Mr. Takata, are you going to add something to close the workshop?
Thank you very much, everybody, and especially.
Sí, un momento. Tenemos. Okay.
Okay.
¿Ustedes? Un segundo. One
Cierra
moment,
el
please.
micrófono ahí.
1 second, please, Mr. Igarashi.
It's okay. So thank you very much, everybody.
Gracias. ¿Ya están todos? Un segundo. One moment. ¿Ya están todos? ¿Tienen todos su... ¿Me escuchan? ¿Me escuchan? They're all putting on their headphones.
And yeah, I'm sure that you discuss very fruitful, point regarding the SEA.
Estoy seguro que discutieron los puntos importantes respecto a la evaluación estratégica.
And this is a first trial. Workshop is preparation for SEA.
Esta es una preparación, ¿verdad? Una primera prueba para la evaluación estratégica ambiental.
As necessary, all participants can access us further questions and comment.
Accesar.
This is important.
Acceso a nosotros. Recuerden siempre aportar con sus comentarios.
Please don't hesitate. Any questions and furthermore comment to us through the DCOMA.
Por favor, no duden en hacernos comentarios o hacernos cualquier pregunta a través de DCOMA.
After the evaluation, the workshop 1,
después de la evaluación del taller 1, vamos a hacer recomendaciones en cómo manejar el taller número 2.
Anyway, muchas gracias a todos.
Muchas gracias a todos.
Takata-san, dozo.
Thank you very much, everyone, and I really appreciate their discussion today. I was listening to your discussion, and I'm really happy that everybody is really eagerly joining the workshop. And I really feel that they are very supported, and I appreciate everybody for this project, and I hope that we can make a
muy contento por el apoyo. Esperemos que podamos lograr un impacto.
Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias.
Bueno, gracias nuevamente.
Thank you all again. See you next time then. Have a good day.